Welcome to this short video on preparing your dissertation before you submit. This is a short 5-minute video, hopefully not too painful. So I'm going to base this presentation on a PowerPoint presentation, and there is one link to be copied down within there if you want to get a pen and paper ready. Okay, so this is for those individuals who have finished their dissertation or who think they have finished their dissertation or think they are near to finishing their dissertation. I'm just going to go through some of the final, quite simple checks, but ones which are very much worth doing for everybody, I think. Okay, so remember this phrase, SPAG, spelling and grammar. Okay, now you're not going to lose too many marks from just having 1 or 2 spelling or grammar mistakes within your dissertation, but if there's a lot of them, it gives a very bad impression for your dissertation. And for a marker, it's very easy for them to think that maybe not much care was taken with the rest of the dissertation. So it's very important to proofread. Ideally, get somebody else to proofread this for you. Spelling and grammar mistakes should be very easy to spot, and they're very much worth correcting. Okay, whilst we're talking about formatting, check out your page breaks. So there's 2 issues here. Your page breaks can make your document far more easy to read. So you certainly want your chapters to each start with a page break. You may want some of your major sections to start with a page break. You want to make sure that the page breaks keep your tables and graphs all on one page, and also perhaps with their adjoining text on the same page. And at the same time, you need to go through and make sure there's no false page breaks, so no blank pages within your document. These can creep in at any moment, especially if you've used next page section breaks. For example, if you wanted to put in a table or a graph in landscape format and have had to create a separate section for that, it's very easy to end up with extra pages that are not supposed to be there. Okay, the font, just make sure that the font you've used for your main text is consistent throughout. You may want to use a different font for your headers, just to make sure that they look separate, but just check each of those. And while we're talking about headers, have you used automated fields? You can use these for your heading format, as well as for the titles of your tables and figures. If you have, then you need to do a quick check to go through to make sure that these all make sense. Make sure that you've updated the fields after the last change that you made, and they all seem to be logical. Also, make sure that no errors have crept in. It can happen, for example, if you delete a table, but it's still referenced in the text, that you have an error message embedded within the text. So just scan through and make sure that those don't exist. Okay, once you're happy with each of those, you can now create your table of contents. This is very easy. It's a press of a button to create a table of contents or to update one once it's created if you've used automated fields. And the good thing is it gives you a very visual and automatic concept of the structure of your document. And also you can see that you check whether you've used consistent formats for each of your headings. Okay, referencing, very important and very important to most markers. So you need to make sure that you've used either Harvard or Vancouver. I think most people here prefer Harvard, but you're free to use either of those 2 formats. Make sure if you've referenced websites that you've done so properly. Okay, you can look on the internet for guidance for this, and there's probably not one consistent set of guidance, but try to make sure that you've included the name of the writer, the person providing the text within the website address, and the date that it was accessed. So this makes sure that the marker can actually go and look at this page if they so desire. Okay, make sure all citations are in the bibliography, and make sure that all items in the bibliography are cited. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you've cited a paper in your text, it must be in the bibliography. The marker may wish to actually go and look at this paper and see exactly how you've interpreted the text within it. So it's vitally important they're all included. On the flip side of that, make sure that all those papers that you've included in your bibliography are those which are cited within your work. Okay, so the bibliography is not just a list of things that you may have read during your research. It's only for papers that you've cited within the text. Okay, if you include ones which are not, then it probably looks like you're trying to exaggerate the amount of research that you've done, and this won't go down well. If you've used an automated software, such as Mendeley, EndNote, or Reference Manager to create your bibliography and citations. Hopefully you have. There's normally a function to hard code this text at some point. So generally they're in as active fields. You can normally choose to hard code them to just turn them into standard text. That can be quite a comfort because you know once you've done that, they're not going to change unless you change them. Okay, so you're not going to have any last minute horrors going on there. Last thing to say about referencing is make sure that if you have a direct quote within your text that they are actually contained within quotation marks and ideally written in italics. Be as clear as possible that these are direct quotes. Okay, I can't stress this enough. You do know now that you will be submitting electronically. All of your work will go through a plagiarism check. If you have a sentence or a phrase which exists elsewhere, it will come up and be marked. If a marker sees that these are clearly nominated as a direct quote, then that's fine. If not, it may look like you're trying to pass off that particular phrase as your own work. So be very careful with those. Okay, further information on presentation and the mandatory pages that you need to include are in this link. So if you're watching this video, you can just press pause now and take that link down and follow the guide. Okay, there's too much information there for me to go through now, but you need to make sure that you're following all these presentation guidelines and have included all the necessary and mandatory pages. So finally, I would spend some more time than you probably have on your abstract. Okay, the abstract really is the window into your dissertation. It gives a fantastic concept of exactly what you've done, what you've discovered, how you've gone about it. Okay, it's really important. There are no actual restrictions on word count, but I think ideally you would make sure that your abstract is under 300 words and properly sectioned, as you will have seen in all the papers that you'll have read, into an introduction, methods, results and conclusion. Make it nice and concise, give the person marking your dissertation an exact idea of what they expect to read over the next 10,000 words or so. Okay, make sure you do include your word count. Are you within the range that's been prescribed? If not, ask yourself why not. If you've gone over the word count, then you're going to lose marks for that, so don't. Please make sure that you take some words out. If you're slightly under the range that's prescribed, that's okay as long as you think that you've included sufficient material. Okay, do you have any issues that you need to report? The deadline for giving in your dissertation this year, this is 2016, is September the 9th. Don't wait until that date to decide that there's a reason that you can't submit on that date or you can't submit a piece of work of the quality that you wanted on that date and then report it. Report any issues that you have way in advance to the MPH admin team. Okay? There are serious penalties for late submission, so don't fall into that trap. If you're happy that you've got everything ready, you need to complete your notice of submission form online. And as I've just said, remember now that only electronic submission is acceptable. So this means you have no binding to do, which gives you an extra few days of running around that you would have had last year to do all of these final checks on your dissertation before you submit. And one last word, if you have any extra time, I would say use the available resources. Okay, the dissertation skills module is absolutely packed full of resources on presentation, on writing, etc., etc. You may wish to have one more look over those. Perhaps once you've got a completed dissertation, you should download one of the examples of excellent dissertations that exist within these resources and just compare to your own. Okay, you may pick up some very late hints and tips on ways that you can slightly move things around to give it a better presentation. Okay, well hopefully this 5 minutes has been helpful to you. Good luck and make sure that you submit by September 9th. Thank you very much.